Now let's begin with opening statements, left to right.
My name's Stan McCauley, and I'm applying to be your mayor. I want to work for you. I have had the privilege of being able to be in many, many different rooms where decisions are made, where there are discussions about what's going to happen for the people. I've covered Board of Education meetings, City Council meetings, meetings after meetings after meetings. And the one thing I always hear is the voice of the people, constituents. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your government. It's not my government. I'm not running to be the master of a plantation. I'm running to be a servant for the people. And so I actually believe that the solutions for this city are sitting out there in the audience. You all know what the city needs. You've been crying out for years and years for what this city needs. Whether you're an attorney, whether you're a boxer, whether you are a store owner, no matter what it is, I've heard people talk about what Hartford needs. The problem is you don't have elected representatives who care what you think. If that were true, none of us would be up here already because you all would have the kind of government you deserve. Now, there are some who think the race is over. It's far from over because the people of Hartford have yet to speak. Tonight, I hope you ask the serious questions when you're given an opportunity to vet the people who are applying to be your mayor. Change can happen, but it can only happen if you have the courage to vote your conscience.
So the first question is going to go to each of you, and here it is. According to CBRE, which is a global real estate company, the city's vacancy rate in the fourth quarter of 2019, or pre-pandemic, was a little under 20%. It stood at 29% for the third quarter of 2023. What can be done specifically to address building and storefront vacancies? Stan?
To the point that's already been made, you talk about vacancy rate downtown, and Hartford is not, that's not unique to Hartford. There's been a paradigm shift in how people work. And so while we talk about, I think it's the Hartford that's going to actually force some of their people to come down back to work 3 days a week now, that's not going to be the norm. People now know they don't need to come into the buildings. So we really need to rethink how we're going to address this problem. Because as long as there aren't people filling up those downtown buildings, the people who have, extended loans and financing those buildings have a hard time paying their rents and paying back on those loans, and they might wind up defaulting. And that could be a huge issue for the city of Hartford as it pertains to our grand list. In terms of storefronts, if you don't do something about the violence in this city and the perception thereof, no one's going to come downtown. Jump to Nick's point. For too long, Hartford's been kind of like an apartheid city. If you're not from Hartford and look the right hue, don't come downtown. Now, if you want downtown to thrive, make downtown attractive to the people who actually live in the city. It's our downtown. You go to West Hartford Center, and guess what you see? You see West Hartford taking advantage of their downtown. Well, Hartford would love to come downtown. You'd have a hard time keeping people out of downtown if you reached out to Hartford residents.
Stan, thank you. So the next question is going to deal with housing. According to the Partnership for Strong Communities, 31% of homeowners with no mortgage in Hartford are cost burdened or spend more than 30% of their incomes on housing costs. That number is 42% of city homeowners with a mortgage and 52% of city renters who spend more than 30% of their income on housing costs. So my question is, what can you do specifically to address those that are housing burdened or housing poor? Stan?
74% of Hartford residents are actually renters, but everybody's rent went up. Homeowners' rent, if you will, mortgages went up because the taxes went up. So if we're going to address that, the only real way to do that is through economic development. And we really need to reprioritize our...
Can everyone please shut off their phones, their cell phones, please?
We really need to reprioritize Hartford's priorities, or as I say, realign. And I have a 6-point plan, which is actually on your seat. I won't go into it in detail right now. But until we make these priorities something that focus us down to a place where we are going to actually have economic development in the city, it's a moot point. Because until people have more money in their wallets, they're not going to be able to reach in and pull out money to give to folks in terms of increased rents and mortgages.
This is from an audience member. What effective deterrence will you put forth to curb police misconduct in the city of Hartford?
I think I'm the only one up here that stood on the steps of City Hall. Fox 61 was there, and so was Brother Chris here, and asked for the resignation of the police chief. This, like many other things in the city, is a leadership issue. 50 years of Centron versus Vaughn didn't happen because they didn't want it to happen. It's not rocket science. These are political decisions. They're not right, they're not wrong. They're political. When you all take back your government, the decisions that you want will be implemented. We need a police chief who understands Hartford, who's willing to work with Hartford residents, who's intentional on hiring a police force that represents the city that they have been charged to protect and serve. Once again, my friends, we don't live on a plantation. It's your government. If you allow this kind of activity to continue, then it will continue. So the biggest deterrent that we could implement is you all exercising your right as constituents and voting for a mayor who will hold accountable police chiefs. And when they don't do their job, they won't get a slap on the wrist. We will undertake the measures that are necessary to remove them. So as I told President of the Council, Molly Rosado, and Luke Bronin, in a letter and on the phone, if the police chief continues to stay, it's not really him that the problem is in. The problem is in our council leadership and our mayor, whom the police chief works for. So if we're going to have community policing, you need a new police
Thanks,
chief.
Stan. Mark? Thanks, Mark. Okay. Stan, the next question is for you. On your website, you talk about launching a bilingual city challenge. Please elaborate on what that is and how much specifically such an endeavor would cost, if anything, and how you'd pay for it.
Say that one more time,
You talk about launching a bilingual city challenge.
Oh.
Can you explain what that is? And
Yeah,
how
the
you pay for it?
bilingual city challenge is to close the literacy gap that we have here in Hartford. Depending upon the data that you look at, between 41 and 61% of Hartford adults are functionally illiterate. That means they can't read an ATM machine. That's real. If they can't read an ATM machine, how are they supposed to read up on who's running for mayor? So you have a bunch of bell cows telling people who to vote for instead of people being informed. So the bilingual challenge is this. The number one language spoken in Hartford is Spanish, not English. So I understand what it is to be illiterate because I can't speak Spanish. I can't read Spanish. So if I'm going to challenge English-speaking people, the primary language is English. If I'm going to say, look, we're going to look at this as a challenge, not a stigma, because you will be empowered to be able to read, write English. You'll be able to be actively engaged in your children's education. You won't be ashamed or embarrassed to go to the school, and the teachers who don't want you there won't shame you for coming and not being able to read the assignment. So I'll learn Spanish, and you learn English. So I'm not going to ask someone else to do something I wouldn't do. So I can learn Spanish. I can go to school. At the end of the day, I'm willing to step up to the plate just like I'm asking somebody else to do. So that's the challenge. Hartford's an international city. There's 76 different ethnic groups in this city. We should be exploiting our tourism and all those things and just embrace the richness that Hartford is. From the
Sure, it's on
answer.
Chef O'Neill. Please address what you believe are any or could be any potential consequences of the chef settlements on Hartford's traditional public schools.
I think the direct consequence or result of that could be that Hartford schools actually might have an opportunity to become better now. I think that it's, believe it or not, I believe that we have the potential to make Hartford Public Schools the #1 school system in the country. It's a matter of intentionality. It can be done if we work together to make it happen. All right? My kids are in a crack school. And if I become mayor, that's where they're going to stay until Hartford schools become better. Because I believe the #1 responsibility that you have as a parent is to teach your children. I'm the educator. The school is the resource I use to help educate them. There was a time that if you spoke negatively about Chef V. O'Neill, you would be taken out and beat to death on the streets. It is clear, Elizabeth, that Chef V. O'Neill was a failure, period. Failure. Contractors got rich. Bus transportation company owners got rich. Everybody got rich. We have what we call path to impact. The path to impact the kids went way down. Hartford Public Schools has suffered irreparable harm as a result of Chef V. O'Neill, because they skimmed the good kids and took them out and put them in a system that is not necessarily beneficial in the long run. What they should have done was been honest. It was an integration program, and they used the schools to do it. It wasn't about education. It was about integration. It's very difficult to integrate a city that's 85% black and brown. Let's keep it 100.
Thank you, Stan.
All right?
So the next question, guys. Okay. Crime data from the HPD for the week ending October 14th shows that while aggravated assaults and robberies are down the same time period from 2022, they are up for rape and more than double for auto theft. So the perception for many, though, is that crime is out of control in major urban cities, including Hartford. So what is your plan to deal with crime and the perception of crime?
We clearly have a community that is dysfunctional, and we need to reinvent our community. All right? We have to respect and love one another. We have lost our sense of how do we care for one another. Synagogues, mosques, churches on the decline. respect for one another on the decline. A lot of people blame the pandemic for the increase in crime. I don't think you can blame the pandemic. If you're flying on a 747 and 2 engines go out, you still have to fly the plane the rest of the way across the ocean. You can't blame the fact that engines went out. Sad to say, this is not a racial issue, but in a way it is. Because if you have a mayor who, no fault to his own, I was born black, I was lucky. Some weren't. Having said that, if he's not black and his police chief isn't black and they're afraid of being called racist for enforcing the rules, then he seems to forget that he decided to be a mayor of a black and brown city. The criminals are preying on black and brown people. So we want the laws enforced, but we want them to be done equitably and fairly. When you see a kid that's not acting right, tap him on the shoulder and take him home. Don't lock him up, beat him up, and put him in jail. That's not what they do in the suburbs. So we need community policing. We need block watches. We need community patrols. The police are empowered to enforce the law and arrest people, but policing begins with the community.
So for the next round, let's do something a little different. I would like to ask each candidate, beginning left to right with Mike, to ask anybody here you want, a specific question. Your candidate of your choice. Just ask them any question you want. And be specific, please. Stan, how about you? Who do you want to talk to?
All right, I'll ask Mark. This is not meant to blindside you. Why are you running for mayor as a West Hartford resident?
No, it's a very good question. So, I have not lived in the Hartfords since my parents moved us out when I was 4. And why did a couple Jewish parents take their 4-year-old and 2-year-old, my little sister, away? Because the Hartford schools were at the time going downhill. They've gotten a lot worse. My parents were right. And you're right to have your kids not in the system. Moving out is a form of resistance. And it's a shame because I would like to have better schools here so nobody has to. These 2 pages, if you would like, talk about the proposal for universal school choice and why universal school choice helps especially Hartford more than any other place. It probably helps Glastonbury, Bloomfield, Windsor, West Hartford too, but it helps Hartford the most. So, I said Hartford first is important. It's important to all the state. I would love to be moving back to a thriving city, and along the way, I want to help it thrive and reach the status that it had along the way. We can get it back.
Thanks, Mark. So your turn. Who do you want to answer?
So can I ask a question of someone who's not here? That would be Arunan. So if I can't, because he might be fundraising somewhere, and I want people to realize it's pretty clear that you have 5 candidates here who represent the outs. And the candidate who represents the ins, those elites, has chosen not to be here, and this is not the only time. I'll ask Stan, if you know, why isn't Arunan here?
Being the unofficial confidant for half the people in the room, he is across town at Vibes Uptown having a meeting with, I think by invitation only, to make sure that the folk who are there aren't going to be able to ask him the tough questions. So if I had to guess why he's not here, it is because he cares less about the constituents that he is about to serve should he win. His mentor did the same thing at the forum in North Hartford that was held at the Artist Collective. He decided he wasn't going to show. This is a sign of extreme arrogance that borderlines on hubris and an insult to the citizens of Hartford to not come to a debate when invited, and it becomes clear that the general public is invited.
Thanks, Stan. Thank you, Stan. So the second question from the audience is to all of you, starting with Mike, going left to right. This is from the audience member. What are some of your opponents' best ideas on stage, and which ones would you enact?
Well, when I become mayor, I'm going to keep him in some capacity so that he can manage Dean. And so I like that idea. It's a good thing I didn't find out about that, because I'd approached Dean, but I knew he was already on your team. So that's out of respect. I didn't want to come and, put him between a rock and a hard place. If I could bottle something, it would be the enthusiasm and passion and the capacity to deliver under pressure that Giselle Jacobs has. And I'd pass it out to everybody in the city. Mike McCauley, I'm going to bring him on board and turn him loose in everything financial in the city. And I'm going to make him a Hartford ambassador.
Thanks.
Hartford hooker?
I'll leave that alone.
Okay. So the next question, okay. So as everyone here knows, a state-financed bailout in 2017 saved Hartford from nearly filing for bankruptcy. What specific plans can you offer that you'd implement so the city continues to stand on strong financial footing now and into the future?
When the town committee did interviews up in the 1st District, I was asked this question by John Kennelly, and my answer was about, I think, 30 to 45 seconds, and he said that was a great answer. These decisions and these mindsets are not the mayor's purview. People may think it is, but it isn't. These things are hashed out in meetings with all of the people that are necessary to make these decisions. And I would hope that you don't expect the mayor to make these decisions, because Luke did not. He may take credit for it, but he didn't. And I do agree, $550 million is what we were owed. Just give us our money. But the fact of the matter is, as long as you keep electing machine establishment individuals to run your government, you will never have a voice. Other towns get to weigh in on their budget. You don't. All right? There's a reason why Hartford has a government, executive, and council that's in the pockets of the establishment, because they don't want you to have fiscal control. If you want that kind of control, where you make the decisions and you vote on the budget, then vote for Stan on November the 7th.
Thanks, Dan. Mark, you're up. We have time for one more question and then 1 minute closing your remarks. So I'd like to start the last question going left to right, beginning with Mike. It's an off-topic question. So the question is, other than family, who has had the biggest influence on you and why? One person other than a family member.
This is an interesting question. Non-family person.
Can't be a family person, no.
How did you know? Wow. Oddly enough, let me give a shout out to my wife. It's not her, but I just want to give a shout out to her because of the answer. Blaine A. Strunk, who was my principal in high school at Penridge Senior High School. I was the only minority in my graduating class of 425. He made sure that I was treated like a student. I was a peer counselor and a whole lot of other things in school. So impactful was he in my life that when I got married the first time, he came to Hartford from Pennsylvania for my wedding. And so the intentionality to make sure that I was treated at all times like just another kid in the school helped me see people for people and not what others say they are.
Thanks, Stan. Thanks to all 5 of you. We're going to do closing remarks.
Everybody should have one of these on their seat. This is McCauley for Mayor, Path to Impact. There's a very detailed outline of my vision. Take the time to read it. If you have any questions, give me a call. Write this number down, 860-944-9797. That is my cell phone number, has been for decades. 860-944-9797. 1H is where you will find me on the ballot. If you want a government that is responsive to you, you are going to have courage in yourself to vote your conscience. You already know what to do. So when you go into the voting booth, remember, what happens in the voting booth stays in the voting booth. You don't have to tell people you voted for Donald Trump. Just say that you didn't.
Stan, you're up. Thank you.
And vote for me.
To all of you, I really appreciate the time, and it was a pleasure. Also, thanks to the audience for their questions. I also want to thank Dressler Law for partnering with us. And I promised Mark that I would mention that 1 week from tonight, on October 30th, the final mayoral debate, 6:30, Walk in the Light Church on Garden Street. And if you want to attend, feel free to go there and ask some important questions. Thank you, guys. Thanks. Thank you.
Tutu. How about a hand for the moderator?
I just want to tell the community that I'm out here at this event tonight, this debate for the mayoral candidates. It was kind of weak. I felt like a lot of the candidates, they didn't really answer the question. I think Stan McCauley did an excellent job of staying on point and answering the question and not going off on some tangent. I think that, we need to have more, and the community needs to come out and kind of ask some real tough questions. But I do believe that a vote for anybody except Stan McCauley is a vote for white supremacy and racism in our city. So we have an opportunity to land a blow against the Democratic and the Republican Party, because they're one and the same, by electing Stan McCauley. Peace, family. Thank you.
Peace, peace, peace. This is Jermaine, a.k.a. Hey Rue, the owner of Grapevine Entertainment. We just tapped in with the debate. I definitely want to say shout out to Gigi. Please shout out Gigi. If y'all could vote, go vote. Yes, if you got a felony, you still could vote. Please go vote.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jenica LeBron, and yes, I am the daughter of Nick LeBron, who is running for Hartford mayor. At today's mayoral debate, it was very interesting. We had 5 candidates come out, and I think all of them did a great job. Everybody spoke true to what they believe in and their passions and why they believe they should be the next mayor for the city of Hartford. But of course, I am biased. I do believe that my dad, Nick LeBron, should be the next city of Hartford's mayor. So vote November 7th, row 1G. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Carlos Martinez Rivera. I'm here with Team LeBron for Hartford. I'm encouraging people from the community to come out and vote November 7th. Vote for Nick LeBron, row 1G.
Hi, I'm Candace Storman, campaign manager for Nick LeBron, who's running for mayor. I wanted to tell you how important it is to cast your vote this election for November 7th. What's really important is that you actually have 3 ways to cast your vote even before the election day happens. You can submit an absentee ballot by going online and requesting an absentee ballot application. There's still time in the next 2 weeks for it to come to your house, you fill it out, and you send your ballot directly in. You also can go directly to City Hall at 550 Main Street in Hartford and cast your absentee ballot directly right then and there so that nothing gets in your way of casting your vote for this important election. Every single vote counts, and if there's any reason why you might not be able to be in Hartford on Election Day, you want to make sure you utilize this very, very wonderful tool of submitting an absentee ballot. If you have any questions about that, please feel free to reach out to us at lebronforhartford.com. We have all of that information on our website. See you on Election Day. Vote 1G. Bye.
Good evening. My name is Marcus Jarvis. I am a Hartford City resident. On the Stan McCauley team, I was asked to make a commentary as it pertains to the mayoral race. So here's my commentary. We have a race of outsiders. We have Runa Narumpalum, who's from California. We have Eric Coleman, who's from Bloomfield, and other candidates that are not from Hartford. Stan McCauley is from Hartford, has been here for over 30, 40 years, and has served this community. And if you want something different and you want change, viable change that you can actually see and not just promises, political promises, then you vote 1H, 1 Hartford, J. Stan McCauley. I think the Democratic Party has done a disservice to itself, has betrayed itself. We have people right here in Hartford. Fonfara ran for office, Eric Coleman ran for office, and yet still we endorsed an outsider, Runa Narumpalum, from another outsider, Mayor Luke Broner. Again, if Hartford wants change, Hartford has to get out and vote. We have the government that we deserve. That's 1H, 1 Hartford, J. Stan McCauley.